Welcome everybody to the session Powerful Document Automation for Dynamics 365, Microsoft 365, Microsoft Teams and the Power Platform. My name is Christian Bauer, I'm CEO of Docs42 and we have prepared a lot for you in this session. We give an overview of what is the essence of document automation, why do you need it, what are the challenges here, and the main part of the session will be an extensive live demo. And this is the reason why I'm very happy to be not alone in this session, but together with Johannes.
Thank you, Christian. Hi everyone, I'm Johannes. I'm the lead technical evangelist at Docs42. And yeah, like Christian said, we've prepared an awesome lot for you today. So we will have a look on the question you probably have in mind. What are the challenges of document automation and how can you solve them? Then of course, we're going to have a lot of live demos in Dynamics CE, in Dynamics Finance and Operations, in Business Central, and all of this combined with SharePoint, with Teams, and of course with Power Platform. The best part of this is all of this is one document automation service, Docs42. Then the last part will be very cool reference cases that we have, which use either of the applications we've already named. And yeah, that's it for the next 30 minutes. I'm really happy you joined the session. Let's get started.
Okay, so why is document automation essential on the Dynamics 365 platform? I mean, every company is creating tons of documents, of offers, of contracts, of presentations, and any other kinds of documents daily, because it's necessary to communicate with your customers. And if these documents are a bit more complex, use business rules, text modules along with that, you cannot do that with the standard tools because you cannot easily do that with reporting services. At least it's very hard to program that. Business users cannot do that. And also with electronic reporting, business documents on finance and operation, it's not easily doable because you cannot do complex business rules there. Okay? What are business users doing? They resort to copy pasting. They create these documents manually, which is of course extremely error prone. It takes a lot of effort to do that. It's cumbersome. It's not fun for the business users who need to do that. So you need to get rid of that. Okay? Another trend here is what Microsoft is doing. Watch it. Microsoft is continuously splitting up its applications on the Dynamics 365 platform and Microsoft 365 platform into smaller and universal services. Like for example, Power Automate. There has always been the capability to do some workflows in NAV and in AX and everywhere basically. SharePoint, of course. But now Microsoft is more and more introducing and relying on the Power Platform, where you have the opportunity and the option to create workflows for every platform, for every application. So it's a universally usable service. Same is true for Teams, for example, Microsoft Teams. You can integrate all the applications, CE, SharePoint, everything into Microsoft Teams. So you can use Teams as a unified front door for your business users to interact with all of your applications. And you know what the adoption of Teams is, so it's growing vastly. Okay? That means we are not on an island anymore. In a modern architecture, you won't have a customer saying, okay, I'm using my AX and I do everything from that. In a modern architecture, the same customer would say, I'm using finance and operation to run my business processes, okay, but I want to have my customer contacts in Dynamics 365 CE because my marketing department is running their campaigns from there. And we do have some automation. We use Power Automate for that. Yes, we have documents. Of course, we need to manage them. So we need SharePoint, of course. And maybe they use Teams as a unified front door for everything. So you're not on an island anymore. Okay? If you use the standard way to create documents, reporting services, electronic reporting, these are always an add-on to one of these platforms. So that's not enough. And of course, it leads to the fact that information is more and more distributed. That doesn't make it exactly easier for copy-pasters as well. And it's also true for a lot of third-party tools that can create documents. I mean, these tools bring along a more powerful document generation engine, yes, but they are still add-ons to one of the Microsoft platform. And as soon as a customer is using more than multiple platforms, the add-on is not enough. You need a universally usable service that can integrate with all of these platforms. Same as PowerPlatform is. And believe me, Microsoft is not going to stop here. They will be bringing up new applications. So you need a service that is able, out of the box, to integrate with these new applications as well, to be safe for the future. Okay? So you need a document automation software that works everywhere, integrates with every system, also future systems, and is capable of generating complex documents, following complex rules. And instead of that, is easy to configure so that business users can do that. Okay? Yeah, and that's Docs42 for you. Let's have a look. Well, it's absolutely essential to design document templates in Microsoft Office, Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Let business users do that. They know the formatting capabilities. Because if you have your IT department doing that, then corporate design rests in peace. But it's easy. It's easy to integrate data fields and also complex business rules with Docs42 in these documents. And you can integrate all your data. Of course, all Microsoft Dynamics 365 platforms, CEBC, Finance and Operations, SharePoint, of course, Excel, and you might have an SAP or a Salesforce system as well. It's also essential that you are able to test these documents very easily just in Microsoft Word with a plugin. You just can test them with one click. Instead of that, you can trigger the document generation from absolutely every platform. It's a universally usable service. Here is an example for Dynamics 365 CE.
So we promised you a lot of live demos today, and here we are, it's live time. Like we've said, the first thing I want to show you today is an integration into Dynamics CE. The second one will be Finance and Operations. Then we will have a look into Business Central. And the last part will be an integration where you generate documents from SharePoint only. Let's start with Dynamics CE. So in this scenario, we are going to create a complex quote. And that complex quote usually also requires different groups to work together. And as you can see here, we have a solar panels quote in this case. And in this quote, we are going to have an option for collaboration. And this option for collaboration, we've in this case integrated in teams. So let's say, for example, on this quote, we have a big customer, there is sales working on this, but there's also a service unit working on this, and also a technician who has been on site with the customer. What they can do is they simply go to SharePoint, and in SharePoint, we have a folder for each of the quotes in here. And if we check the one we are currently opening, you see there are 4 different documents and they each have a module type. So it's an Excel project plan, a presentation, an advertisement, and a description. If I open these, you'll see they don't have any relation to Docs42 yet. So it's just simple Office documents that can be maintained in service. And here we have an Excel, in this case for the service of the starting with our project plan and with these solar panels. Then we have a connection plan. That's one resource we got from our technician. Then we have a special offer. This is something that the service units can maintain. And then lastly, we also have a product description for the Sun Power Deluxe Limited. And this is of course something that's just a product sheet and in this case related to that very project. Now, any of these resources that we have in this particular folder in SharePoint, when generating this from CRM directly, let me just also prove you that this is live data. So we'll also change the quantity in Dynamics. Will of course then be integrated into our document. So if I click on generate document up here and return PDF quote, this is the simplest one. So we're going to start with this. It's now going to pull data from Dynamics CE, so all of what you've just seen in the quote, but also the couple of resources we've had in SharePoint directly. Let me just quickly save this and open the document. So on top, you'll see a lot of this information is coming from CE directly. So all of this in the header, the images, but the product and the project description here is already something you got from SharePoint. So remember, we had this, and anything I change in here, of course, will be then taken into this. Next step, in the products, we've just changed the quantity here. So you see also the quantity already, of course, is in there. The second table down here, which looks in terms of the formatting identical to what we see up here, is the one we've done in Excel in SharePoint. So you also in here, you see there are different hours. All of this directly coming from Excel, from SharePoint. Then we have the technical presentation. The technical presentation, our connection plan, what we got here. And then the last part down here is our advertisement. And if I change any of this and regenerate the document, of course, this will of course be changed in our generate the document right away. Let me just give you a brief idea of all the options you have when it comes to generating that document. Now, of course, we've just done the PDF quote generation. You could do the same thing with Word. So if you still want to change something with that document, you could download that Word right away. We can also save it to SharePoint or Teams. Well, why SharePoint or Teams? As you probably, many of you know, is that SharePoint, the SharePoint libraries you work with, you can also integrate into Teams. We'll have a look into the Teams part later on, but for the moment, if we check the Docs42 Dynamics 365 SharePoint site where we have the output, if I just quickly reload that document, you see a few seconds ago I've generated a document into that SharePoint library, and of course also with the metadata. So if you don't want the output to leave basically your Microsoft ecosystem, you could just give the option to save that document to SharePoint right away, as you see here. And again, you will see a document you're very familiar with already. Next part, if we want to, so for example, send an email in here, you will see we will be able, of course, able to send that document as an attachment, but we will also have a nice looking email body. So if I just quickly go to my Outlook, you will see that we will receive an email in a second. It's already synchronizing. That is great. And if I just open this really quick, you will see that again, the same document, in this case, we have as an attachment. Well, you already know this, but there's also a nice looking mail body, and it has the details of that very quote with also images, with links, etc. And this again is a Docs42 template, which I'll show you in a second. One more thing I'd like to show you really quick is that in some cases you might not need or might not want to send that email right away. There's also the option to, in this case, create a draft email with Docs42. What this will do in this case is it will give you a MSG file, which you then can send through from your very inbox. And so when you, for example, in 1 or 2 months want to know what you sent back then, you'll still have it in your send folder. You see, this looks very similar to the email I've just received from our server, so you can use the same thing for both of this. And if we open that document, we also here see the same document once again. Cool. So by now you're probably wondering, how can I change anything in that very document? How can I add some data to the template? And the very simple step you need to take is you need to go to your Dynamics, or in this case any SharePoint site where you have the template. In here you will see for our later finance and operations sample that we also have finance and operations template. So that's the same library. But there is our for sales templates. There is a mail body as a Word document, which is responsible for our nice looking email. But more importantly, we also have our quote with a lot of blue fields. Blue fields always connected to Docs42. And if I click on insert data field on top, I will see where they are coming from. If I click on any of these, you will see where they are coming from. And with simple drag and drop, you can generate them into your document. Now, if you start with that and you design a nice looking document and you want to test it, of course, you don't need to jump to the Docs42 service right away. You can do that locally, generating it here in the add-in, and very conveniently you get a list of all the quotes you have, so you can take any for testing purpose, click on generate, and this will already, we've just done the solar panels as a quote already. This will do the same thing with the solar panels, but in this case just locally. Now if we view those documents side by side, now there's some easy data that you see here, for example, like the header. Also there's images that we include, so that's a type of image. But for example, in here, you already see this is the complex document we got from SharePoint directly. And if I double click on this, this will again open insert data field on top. And in here we will see this is a SharePoint data source. Those are the Dynamics data sources with these icons. And this is a type Word document. Now the flexibility you gain when you generate a document with Docs42 is that you can include a lot of different types, and those types can be any of the one we see in that very drop-down. So of course number, date, time formatting, you can work with images, barcodes, entire image maps, so conditions on images, you can integrate Word documents like we do, PowerPoints, PDFs, PDF attachments, HTMLs, and there's also some logic you can apply to headers or hyperlinks. I hope your wish in terms of the complexity of data is there already, and we're happy to also demo you any of the types if you join our booth. So we have the booth, and just come there for direct questions. Of course, you can also add them in the chat now. Feel free to ask them at any time. Let's get back to the document. So we've just seen all of the different types. We haven't seen a condition yet. This is what you see if you click on Automate Range up here. You'll see there is a condition for this. Now it's a very simple one. You only want to include the valid date if the valid dates are both filled with data. So our condition in this case is if those both valid dates from CRM are filled with data, then we will include that part. That's a very simple condition we use for this specific scenario, but this can of course get a lot more complex. It can even handle entire different documents that you integrate. In very often, of course, if we do, for example, our own invoices, if we generate documents with our own invoices, all of these conditions in here will, for example, display different texts based on countries. And we see repetitions in here, and also the PowerPoint integration in that very document. You're probably wondering yourself, where's the data coming from? Now, if we click on data map up here, that's all the data sources we integrate. Now, unfortunately, since we don't have a lot of time, I cannot go into too much detail here, but also for finance and operations, for example, you see there's different data sources. There's the one for BC, table and report data source. There's the one for SharePoint, and of course, our CE data source. Now, briefly, let me just show you one of the CE data sources. It's very similar to all of the different data sources we use. In most cases, you need to have some connection, which can either be done through a user or you can do it through Azure Active Directory. So high security standard. And if we go to read from CRM and connect to this, we will be able to select any of the entities in here. In finance and operations, that would be the reports. Same for Business Central, of course. So in CE, it's just the entity. In BC and finance and operations, you have two data sources, because in some you want to get the logic from the reports. In some, you might want to read the data from the entities. If you want to link them with any of the other data fields, in here, for example, if we want to have the quote and we want to look for the quote ID, you see this already selected, and it should be equal to any other data that is within the Docs42 add-in. So you can link and create joins between data IDs. So in case, for example, finance and operations ID and CE ID would be the same, this is the way where you can match them. And also, of course, if, for example, CE data matches with SharePoint product descriptions, this is where you can link all of this at the same time. Cool. So much for the design part. Now, of course, like we said, join our booth if you want to have more details on this. We're happy to do so. A second scenario that I'd like to show you really quick in CE is a generation of a PowerPoint template. Now again here, this is not a quote, this is an opportunity. And if we click on the PowerPoint integration here, we will generate a PowerPoint right away. And that PowerPoint document will then, in this case, just be opened. Of course, you can do the same thing again, save it to SharePoint, send it via mail. Now the template of this looks very similar to what you've already seen in Word. And also here, you probably already know these products. They are coming from the quote. Then there's different companies we want to include. So there's a lot of automatic complexity you can reduce in generating the document. Very recently, design-wise, we just had the request that the quotes that as an output should be a PowerPoint document really have to very precisely be positioned in terms of the images, and that's a perfect case for PowerPoint. So if you want to have nice looking quotes and you want to position images perfectly, and you feel like Word is not the right way to go, you can also do it with PowerPoint. I've mentioned that there is a connection between the SharePoint and the Teams. So if we just have a very brief look into Teams, we'll see that this is connected already. And in our teams, so in this case, we have an HR team, a sales team, and a template designer team. And in our sales team, of course, we have CE directly. You also see one of the emails we send, we can also send to Teams. So this can be an update in your team if you want to include Teams more in this. If we go to the quote modules, you're very familiar already with this. So also in here, we could change any of the Excel project plan and then change any of the data in there, close it. And of course, the output we've already seen is directly in Teams as well. So also the sales quotes will be here. You see there is another one that's called Flow. It was generated 12 minutes ago. Docs42 also integrates with Power Automate. So in this case, we've done a very simple automation where if anything is changed in that quote, it will take the data and will generate a nice looking new document and automatically save it into a SharePoint library, which is the same we've already seen. As Docs42 already has the output option in our team directly, you see there is a quote. If a quote is modified, it will be generated by Docs42. This is a very simple option to generate documents also through a flow in this case, or Power Automation, in case you don't want to have it manually done. Perfect. Next step, let's jump into finance and operations. Again, a very similar scenario to what we've just seen. We want to, in this case, generate an invoice from our invoice journal. Let's just have the newest one is on top. Let's take any of these. And when generating the document in the original preview, instead of going for the standard of SSRS, in this case, we were just kind of like taking a turn to Docs42. And I will show you in a second how you can do that. So that's a means, and in finance and operations, you have options to change templates, to change the information that you will see in a second. And in here, we again have a document with automation in terms of the products, similar to the template you've already seen. Of course, again, here we could also combine data from CE, so also as an output from finance and operations directly, you'd have CE in there, nice looking advertisement in there, where you win great trips, and we are switching from portrait to landscape, since, well, if any of you have already tried this with SSRS, it's basically impossible. Now the linking between the two documents, in this case we have the Docs42 parameters. This is an integration that gets into finance and operations through the lifecycle services, if you're familiar with that. If not, ask either your partner or ask us, we can show this to you. And we have in here some report configurations. And those report configurations, of course, for our sales invoice live, we've just seen. If we jump into our report setup, we'll see there is a path linking to the very same Dynamics site that we've already seen. And in this case, it's a Word document. Now, similar to the CE document that you've already seen, we could go there, we change anything, and any changes that we adjust would then, of course, be automatically, again, based on the template, and it will take that live data right away. If you're concerned about anything where you don't know if you want to use prod or dev or different environments, of course, I'll just use a different path, and you have two templates. One is the one for testing and one is the one for live. Or even if you want to include this with different SharePoint libraries, that's no problem as well. Two things I still want to show you for finance and operations. So there are the reports in here. We also can generate reports on data entities. And if I just quickly jump to our all vendors, there is a report we can generate that is in this case not based on a report from finance and operations, but just from the entity data. So based on the entity data, we are printing, in this case for our vendor, a nice looking vendor sheet. And there we are with our nice looking vendor sheet. I need to be a little quick on this because time is moving ahead very fast. So next off, let's jump into Business Central. And a very similar scenario to what you've already seen is, in this case, from Business Central, we want to generate a job quote. And in that job quote, similar to finance and operations and to CE, you have an option to generate, in this case, even integrate the team. So you will add parameters such as your team that will then be in your PDF. And if we have a look on that document, you'll see on the lower part, there is the team. There is also some calculations we did. So sums for the products. Now check that chair right there. We will change that in a second. Very similar again. We have a Word document as a template. You go there, you change anything. You integrate, for example, a nice looking barcode. You can also change the color of this. So let's just make it orange for this case. And again, test locally. Now I promised you to have a look onto that chair. So we're going to do a very, very simple yet powerful thing. We're just going to move that chair. And of course, as it is a change within one of the templates, if we generate the document again, you will see that the chairs have moved. Perfect. All right, so the last part we will have a look into in the live demo is an integration in SharePoint, and we want to dynamically generate a document for some employees, and we can click on Open PDF List up here. This will then automatically just insert those data items that we've already selected. And the only time today, this is an employee list with nice charts in there. Perfect. Let's have a look into our customer references.
Thanks a lot for staying with us. I hope it was interesting for you. But Johannes, what happens now?
Well, now it's your turn. Get a live demo, get a free trial, or we also have a booth. So if there's any questions you still have, feel free to join us. We're happy to meet you personally as well. And yeah, then for the others, see you next time. Bye bye.